The person who really brought us emotional intelligence was none other than Charles Darwin. Darwin was the first scientist to take emotions seriously. Darwin said to himself, if emotions didn't matter to us, they would have been weaned out of us over the course of evolution. But emotions do matter. They help us survive, and if we do well as a company, ideally being emotionally intelligent means we can evolve as a company and get better at the customer experience. Now, when you look at this list, which by the way leaves out two other emotions, surprise and contempt, you're going to say, oh, there are 7 core emotions and there's only one positive emotion, which is joy, the upscale version of happiness. And that is true, because bad news is something people hear more loudly than good news, unfortunately, because it goes back to survival. So what I want to do in my speech today is talk about how you can overcome those bad situations, how you can make them better. Yes, I would like to drive us towards happiness, but my argument is going to be that the only way to get there is to acknowledge that there are problems. If you understand the problems, solve the problems, get more literate about what's behind the problems, you have a far better chance of coming out well than just imagining that everything is a smiley face in life, because it's just not very realistic.
With Dan Hill, our expert in facial coding, what a face Roger Federer's got.
Well, he has a wonderful ability to enjoy his victories. He shows grace. He has happiness. This is not a trivial emotion. One of the things happiness gives you is the ability to be more flexible in your thinking. So Roger is a magician of finding the angles and the courts the way back into a match when maybe it's not his perfect day, especially as he gets older. And he also has surprise. The eyebrows will flash up like, oh, that's a nice shot. I like that shot. I'll go there again. So he is relishing the moment, and that's nice because it helps him hang in there. The Roger who struggles is the Roger who shows maybe a little bit of contempt for his opponent, but more likely for himself.
Yes.
That this isn't quite my game today. How am I going to work through this? And then if he gets really mad, then he starts to scoff and scowl a little bit. Now, first of all, this is universal. Even a person born blind emotes the same way as you or I, even if they're born blind. So this is hardwired into the brain. I also know it's universal because I've done research in more than 30 countries. I've spoken in more than 25 countries. I've traveled in over 65 countries in my lifetime. So I have seen its universality. The second thing is it's spontaneous. A lot of times people filter what they say. You get into an employee situation and, will the truth come out? Well, the face is the only place in the body where the muscles attach right to the skin. It is quick, real-time, unfiltered data. It can tell you what is going on. And the third thing is it's abundant. Human beings have more facial muscles than any other species on the planet, zebras or otherwise. And here in Romania, of course, emotions are quite abundant. I am thinking of Helene Nastasi. I am thinking of Simona Halep, so on and so forth. I also lived in Italy as a boy for 2 years. Italians have a lot of emotions. And if they make this gesture while driving, it does not mean I love you. It's something quite different. We can take 7 different emotions that go across cultures. That's happiness, which we report on different levels. There's a difference between a true smile and a social smile. A true smile is where the muscle around the eye relaxes. You get the twinkle in the eye. Woody Allen could probably fake it, but the rest of us mere mortals cannot. There's surprise, which we actually these days divide between positive and negative surprise. Is it a wow or is it an ugh? Then you're talking about disgust, contempt, sadness, fear, and anger. Going back to the video I showed you earlier, contempt is the most reliable indicator that a marriage will fail. If you've read Blink or anything on marriage counseling, the Love Lab at the University of Washington, Seattle, with 15 minutes of videotape has a 90% accuracy rate if the couple will stay married. 90%. Contempt is the most reliable indicator of that because you don't trust, you don't respect the other party.
What did you think of his reaction, how his face looked? How would you assess it?
This was not a successful press conference. I've gone through the last 2 seasons and facially coded a lot of Tom Brady press conferences. In this case, the anxiety level was probably 4 to 5 times higher than normal. And no wonder when he said, I have no knowledge of the situation, as if he couldn't talk to Belichick. It reminds me a lot of a wonderful skit, actually a Second City skit, where John Belushi is playing Sam Irwin and says, "What I want to know is what did the president know and when did he stop knowing it?" That's kind of how this press conference struck me. I saw the fear. I saw a lot of sadness because I think he realizes this is going to tarnish his image going forward, and a fair amount of disgust and contempt. And I've seen that in liars. Well, I'm a realist, but I'm also an optimist. I know those two don't go together very easily sometimes. So yes, there are people that you may just not be able to change. But what's so important is that people, go back to what I said earlier, people want to feel good about themselves, and they want to feel like they have allies, people who will support them, who will defend them. And I think that's really fundamental. So there was a study in America, and they looked at feedback between a boss, a leader, and an employee. And the really key thing is you wanted a ratio of about 5 to 1. You want 5 positive comments to every time you make a negative comment. So you're giving them hope and belief they can be better, but you can't, on the other hand, go all the way out to like 8 to 1. Because by the time you get around to making everything sound nice, you don't have any credibility anymore. Because it can't all be perfect. They must make some errors, there must be some issues, some problems. So you want to be optimistic, you want to be supportive, but you don't want to pretend like it's all just absolutely rosy. So facial coding is starting to get quite well known. When I began with it, it was just in academia, mostly used in psychology counseling. The show Lie to Me, Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, the movie from Pixar, Inside Out. All of this made it certainly more famous. But I am here today to tell you that facial coding and its predecessor, facial recognition, is going to be one of the most significant things that happens on the planet within the next 10 years. But if you've never been lied to in life, congratulations. You are either extremely lucky or you are not paying attention. People are slippery, words are slippery. We spin, we deflect, we hint and hold back. The truth is that we are not truth tellers. Human beings want to feel good about themselves, and they want to attract allies. So, speaking of truth, I believe that in business there are 2 currencies. And yes, one of them is money, but the other one is emotions. And just as in regard to money, we want to keep track of our receipts, our revenue, we want to keep track of our expenses, I believe you could and should, and in fact you can, keep track of emotions. Now you can't simply do that by asking people. I've just played for you the radio commercial. Words are slippery. Your boss says to you, am I a good leader? You say, yes, you're a wonderful leader. You get the promotion, you get the bonus. You cannot count on the words alone to tell you what is going on. And one of the lies about emotions is that they're noisy, they're messy, you can't understand them. They have no system to them. But they do. If you are an artist, you have a color wheel. If you are a psychologist, you can use an emotion wheel. So some things are pretty obvious. Joy is the strongest form of happiness. The opposite is sadness. Maybe a little more complicated, anger and fear are opposites. With anger, I approach, I want to make progress. I will hit, I will break through barriers. If I am afraid, I will freeze.